Hello, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, today's discussion will be on my musings regarding Lilith and the demonized Mother Earth archetype energy and themes in our humanity, in our cultural history. I just want to show more about how we can actually integrate our relation to ourselves, our relation to our emotions, and our relation to Mother Earth and our grounding principles and our own birth charts. So I think that Lilith really just basically encapsulates the demonization of the divine feminine, the womb and the tomb, so to speak, the ancient kind of teachings that we knew from earth-based practices or even in ancient Egypt. And that's why we have, of course, the cross on grave sites and the cross also in the womb and the ovaries, right? So reincarnation and all those kind of themes. So if you're interested, stay tuned. But basically, women have the power to call forth spirits for reincarnation, right? Because we're constantly rebirthing and energy is not created nor destroyed. During the time that these religions that started to talk about the feminine in a more negative light, basically Lilith or the Bible or the Middle East, these were areas where there weren't, maybe these were cultures where men and societies had to wage war based more so than other places in the world where there was more fruitfulness and abundance. And that just kind of continues to reinforce the idea that if you honor the divine feminine, you have more abundance naturally. Because actually Venus, which represents money, abundance, food, with Taurus and Venus, is everything to do with feminine principles. I mean, we can only have growth when it's nurtured and loved and cared for. So that's the divine feminine archetypes. But of course, obviously, pretty recently, I believe the Bible's only 2,000 years old. Of course, it's based on previous teachings, just kind of changed so that they can fit the narrative they're trying to control through their government. But yeah, these are obviously natural places in the world where we naturally see already there's a suppression of women in education. There's a suppression of women with any kind of power of all sorts. And so we can see how Lilith and this concept of trying to control the feminine energy or even demonizing it, by its nature, demonizing the natural world, begins to take form. Lilith is associated with owls as well, or nighttime, right? Night, dark matter. As we know, Lilith was said to be created from God and not from Adam's rib, actually, like Eve was. And these are just archetypes and myths, right, that convey a story or a notion. So we can see that she refused to submit to Adam, especially sexually, and left Eden by her own will, invoking the name of God. So God is also an archetype or a metaphor for the soul, inner knowing as well. And Eden is actually associated with the nakshatra of Rohini, which Claire Nakti has studied on her channel. So if you check out her Rohini videos, which is the Taurus archetype, which is kind of enjoyment, pleasure, bliss, but also ignorance. And it's only beyond that zodiac sign, as we continue in our cycle, that we begin to actually question and analyze things around us. The knowledge of the knowledge that comes from the apple, right? So we can see how a woman having a connection to her soul, her own being, or God, is being villainized by these kind of more recent depictions of spirituality that spreads the world. And obviously, as a part of the strategy of their culture, the natural kind of ambitions of that culture in the Middle East, they definitely are ambitious in spreading their doctrine. So they have successfully moved people and shifted people away from a connection to earth-based religions and natural Mother Earth in order to obey a hierarchy of ignorance and illusion and put barriers between you and your ability to connect with God or divinity itself, which is the Great Mother or the Black Mother archetype, which is from ancient Egypt, which is the universe, the great cosmic ocean or womb. So if you had connection to this, you wouldn't be able to be controlled by anyone, nonetheless a man. So we can see when we get to the truth of the matter that we're actually free from all lies, ignorance, and illusion. Lilith is associated with the untamed feminine or Mother Earth, wildness itself, sexuality, and independence. The feminine naturally has the ability to create tangible form. And everybody is created from a woman. We are not created from a rib from Adam. And so as we can see, these religions spread and began to burn witches or those who practiced earth-based religions in truth, spirituality, and working with spirits or venerating spirits. Of course, the church venerates their own spirits in their own way through kind of taking these teachings and suiting it to fit their narrative, aka the church, which is just a symbol of a body, right? With an entrance and an exit and ribs of a church, right? And eating the blood of Christ, and the rituals are all based on earth-based religions and practices and ancestral spirit veneration. And this was also that the government could have control over the wombs of all women, where these religions spread, in order to actually capitalize on the people who were born and turn them into soldiers for further conquests and greed. And so you're continuously stripping the power away from everybody to only suit the select few at the top. In many cultures around the world, it was always the feminine principle that was revered, aka Gaia, which is Greek, or Isis in Egypt, or Shakti in Hindu. It's embodying the cyclical nature of reality, of regeneration, of fertility, of death, and then rebirth again. So this naturally puts the power of reality in the hands of a woman, and a sovereign, free, independent one at that, who could make a choice of who to mate with and who not to mate with. And they've actually shown that they used to teach, and when I was growing up, they used to teach that it was the sperm that would make its way to the egg and fight and kill off. No, it's the feminine's womb who decides which sperm gets to fertilize. And it's she who kills anything that she does not want, hence the purifying blood of the period, and how powerful and potent that was in ancient traditions. Blood is connected with blood oaths, or working with spirits, and naturally blood, or blood of the cross, or blood of the womb, is how we reincarnate into this world. It was also associated with ancient goddesses like Sekhmet, who, as she went on her rampage to clear the world of ignorance, demons, that she left a bloodshed. And we all know when women get around their time of the period, they're more empowered and they're very powerful at that time. Women are naturally connected with moon cycles as well. The moon represents the mother, and it is the closest satellite to Earth, and hence it has more power. It really channels down the energies of all the other planets around it into a tangible creation on Earth. We already know agricultural seasons are dictated by the moon, and they used to plant by moons. Ancient traditions use calendars based on moon cycles. And so we see that a woman is being villainized for her ability of discernment. And their religion, which has unfortunately spread and caused the death of witches and earth-based practitioners, shamans, and healers the world over, have put the choice into the hands of a man, which we can see already the issues of that in abortion in the United States and sovereignty. There are scientific studies that show that estrogen, which is a hormone more found in women, actually enhances brain capacity and makes us more mathematical and analytical versus testosterone, which just is all about sex and conquest and ego. We also know that the feminine is represented in astrology by Venus or the moon, which is they are benefic planets. They are helpful, they are pleasant, they are nurturing, versus planets associated with the masculine principle like Saturn or Mars, which are associated with war, conquest, death, destruction, and woe. And so, with the rise of patriarchal religions and systems, the powerful, sensual, earth-connected feminine was labeled as dangerous. Goddesses were recast as witches, demons, and seductresses. As we know, a lot of demons from the Bible, so to speak, or names from the Hebrew, were actually just pagan gods from other societies. Sacred sexuality then became a sin. Sexuality itself is an energy, and a very powerful energy at that. It is related to creation, creativity, as well as the soul, and the ability to channel energy, chi, and reiki, and heal, aka the chakras. In the matriarchal, or at least those with giving equality to women, aka ancient Egypt, where women were able to own property, and actually property was handed down through the mother's line, and it was all connected with the mother, not the father. Women were revered as the life bringers to agriculture and abundant riches, and hence we had priestesses, and we had rituals and rites to do with revering this kind of Mother Earth archetype. They were respected, they were loved, and it was all about love. If we have a natural connection to Earth or Mother Earth, we don't have to obey leaders, as we are all each individual leaders, and hence more quality and fairness. And so we see in many cultures the primal female, aka Lilith, Kali, Hecate, is cast into the shadow, feared, exiled, and killed. The demonized Earth Mother becomes a monstrous feminine, too big, too wild, and too knowing. So Lilith is associated with actually the farthest point of the moon's orbit from Earth. And so it's associated with the exiled Earth Mother, or the exiled mother concept, which gives us the trauma of disconnection. In shadow work, it represents a repressed part of our psyche. So if you don't know how to actually embody and embrace Lilith, this is going to come at you from the outside, and it will be a truly deadly foe, since Lilith is associated with spirits, and spirits can take many vessels, many different people. When we don't bring the ignorance to light, we allow it to grow. Illusions and falsehoods then rule our reality. Lilith is a part of our charts where we're powerful and yet unconditioned. It's a place in our chart where we might have been suppressed originally, and it's a part of instinctual knowing. And a little fun fact is Priapus, I don't know how to say it right, but he is opposite of Lilith. And these are just, Lilith is basically not a real asteroid. It is a calculation, right, of the farthest point of the moon's orbit from Earth. And so it's associated with the darkness. And her opposite is Priapus, who is considered this god who's associated with basically chasing women down until they're forced to turn into trees to avoid him. Lilith is also associated with the Lilu, which is a Sumerian word for water spirits. And so it's associated with water and air, which are very spiritual mediums or channels for spirits to transverse. Lilith is associated through her myths, obviously, as the feminine that is attempted to be bound or binded by a man, right, under Adam. And she's not afraid to speak up. She's not afraid to advocate for her rights and her own divinity and her own truth. There's also themes about being overcome without consent and the dark consequences of a lack of boundaries. And so they basically demonize the woman's ability to set boundaries, to seek knowledge, to seek empowerment and divine truth in connection with spirits and Mother Earth, natural energies, and be in control of what she creates. They wanted to take that ability away from us, women, and your own Lilith placement. In ancient teachings, we knew that we were to revere spirits and ancestors. Even the Egyptians revere the dead. They also knew that everything in our world was spirit or animism, right? These are based religions before ignorance and before illusions. This was something that leaders and politicians and kings could not control, and so they demonized it. And they tried to create barriers of ignorance between us and our true connection with God and all that is, attempting to block you from the power, from your own energy and your own power and divinity and soul, aka stealing your soul. Lilith represents the powerful feminine, the ability to attract, create from Mother Earth and natural energies, and maintaining a sense of power in a world that wants nothing more than to strip you of it. Sexual energy is creative energy, aka spiritual energy. It's when it is suppressed or not utilized or channeled that we see the energy come at us from the external world due to the void of rejection and the suppression, which naturally calls it in so that we can face it. Lilith obviously does not like systems of oppression. She represents the wild itself. The feminine is receptive. It's about awareness without distraction and being in the physical vessel gifted to you from Mother Earth or your mother, grounding and connecting to the truth beyond illusion. The phallus is naturally going to have its semen risen up. And so Lilith represents a woman being on top of a man, aka she is choosing who and how and when and how she has sex, versus a man having to be the one on top like missionary, which the Bible prescribes, which insinuates that the woman is being forced or coerced. And so we can see how women having knowledge is again demonized in these Middle Eastern religions, aka current news that you always hear about women's education or culture in that area of the world and where this religion was based from. Lilith represents someone empowered and maybe even unmarried or unbound. And so we can see how we're demonizing people and women with power. Lilith is also a protector, and this is an aspect which we only demonize in women, aka women who have the audacity to ask for distance or boundaries or protection. Also, Lilith is about sex and enjoying the energy and pleasure without children, without having to constantly drain oneself of these forces for a man. More so, if a woman is enjoying her sexual relationship with herself and what she likes, who knows if she'll be satisfied with a man who does not even attempt to please her. She'll probably be more of the queen bee archetype. And she'll likely not choose a position of her own subjugation as the sexual expression that honors her and gives her pleasure. Because whatever we're doing manifests our reality, right? So the moon, naturally in astrology, represents our emotions. And so integrating this part of our psyche and our feelings and our emotions is extremely important. Our repressed desires, or things that we don't want to show the light or we're not allowed to. The dark kind of light and dark that we must balance and bring into harmony, unless or otherwise these darkness will just roam in the world without our conscious awareness of them and conscious control or power over them. Another great exercise, if you want to kind of learn how to integrate Lilith in your own chart, is go to ChatGPT and ask how to integrate Lilith in whatever zodiac sign it's in your chart. and it will definitely give you insights that are helpful. And so when we can accept these emotions, these darker emotions, these true desires that we have, our own natural instinctual instinct, we're able to actually empower ourselves as women. We can balance both light and dark. Women are also extremely powerful during the time of their period, which is tied with moon cycles, and gives us the ability to cleanse, heal, and work with spirits as well. If we look back to ancient African religion, spirits were utilized to create protections for the village or the home or the family or other purposes. And we knew to give offerings or veneration to these spirits respectfully. Even in the ancient Indian or Hindu teachings, they talk about how the calendar is actually more aligned with the moon cycles and the yoni. We use the yoni, which is just another term for a vulva or a womb, to describe the different cycles of seasons and growth and our reality on Earth. So I hope this helped you in getting to think about how you can incorporate more truth into Mother Earth based teachings and learnings, and how we can kind of anchor and have that awareness in our own bodies. And even if you're a man watching this, it's about the part of your psyche, the part of your emotions, because everybody has both feminine and masculine traits and concepts. We all have a sun sign and a moon sign, and how to integrate these more powerfully for our own life. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit like, subscribe. If you want to leave a tip, you can do so through the Buy Me a Coffee link. Thanks for watching. Take care.